Okay, so let's dive in. We are opening up a file today that I know is going to resonate with a massive, massive chunk of our audience.
Oh, absolutely.
And honestly, if it doesn't resonate with you personally, I am willing to bet it resonates with someone you know, or more likely, someone you are currently living with.
That's right. We're looking at a document today that, well, it reads almost like a checklist of universal truths for a very specific demographic.
A manifesto, maybe? Or a confession.
Yeah, confession is a good way to put it, because we aren't just looking at, dry data here. We are looking at the lived experience of multi-generational living.
Specifically, the experience of being a fully grown adult, we're talking 20s, even 30s here,
Yeah.
who finds themselves sleeping in their childhood bedroom.
Exactly. And that image alone it tells you so much of the story.
It really does. And before we get into the emotional roller coaster of what that actually feels like, because, the source material gets very specific, almost painfully specific about the feelings involved, we have to look at the numbers.
We do. Because this isn't just a few people, refusing to leave the nest. The data paints a picture of a huge structural shift in society.
A massive shift. So what are we talking about here?
Well, the source highlights a statistic from a UK context that really, it just stops you in your tracks. It notes that 25% of young adults aged 20 to 34 still live at home with their parents.
25%? 1 in 4.
1 in 4. In that prime, starting your adult life bracket, it's a huge number.
That's not an outlier. That's a demographic block.
Yeah.
And the source material also mentions the trend line, which is where it gets really interesting for me.
Exactly. It's not a static number. The source notes that this figure has increased by 20% in just the last 20 years.
Wow. So it's accelerating.
It's absolutely accelerating, which means, if you are listening to this right now and you are currently staring at a poster you put up when you were 15, feeling like you're the only one who failed to get out,
Right.
the data says you are absolutely not alone. This is a societal shift, not a personal failing.
I think that is the first thing we really, really need to frame for the listener, because we so often talk about this as failure to launch, right? That's the movie trope.
It is the guy in the basement playing video games.
Yeah, that caricature.
Yeah.
But if the trend line is moving that aggressively and a quarter of the population is doing it, we have to stop looking at this as a personal problem.
Precisely. If one person does it, it's an exception. If 25% of the population does it, it's a norm. It's an economic strategy.
It's a strategy. And that really sets the stage for the mission of this deep dive, doesn't it?
It does. We aren't just looking at numbers. We are dissecting that lived experience we talked about. The source material, our manifesto, it's this list of universal truths for this huge group of people.
It really is a manifesto. It's a deep dive into the specific pros and cons of this modern multi-generational living. And it just perfectly captures that tension between being an adult, you're paying taxes, you have a job, maybe you even manage other people.
Right. You're an adult out there in the world.
But you're a child under your own roof.
That's the core premise. It's all about the tension. It's about what happens when two generations of adults try to coexist under a hierarchy that was established when one of them was, a toddler.
It's the friction between autonomy and security.
Perfectly put.
So let's get into it. The source material kind of divides this experience into the downside and the upside. And trust me, the downsides are relatable in a way that it makes you want to laugh and scream at the same time.
It really does.
We're calling this first section the regression dynamic.
The regression dynamic is the perfect title for it, because that's exactly what the source describes happening the moment you step back into that house.
That's an instant thing.
It is. And the very first point made in the text is, well, it's quite blunt. It says, it doesn't matter how old you are, you'll always be a child to them.
And that's the core theme here, isn't it? The erasure of adulthood. I think this is the hardest part for people to swallow. You walk through that door and your entire adult identity, your resume, your life experience, it just dissolves.
It just evaporates. You could be a CEO. You could be a brain surgeon. You could be a pilot responsible for hundreds of lives. But to the people in that house, you are still the person they toilet trained.
Yes. And you'll be reminded of that, maybe not directly, but in 1,000 tiny ways.
And the source gives this one specific example that I think we really need to analyze because it's just so perfect. It says, they'll tell you to put a coat on every time you leave the house.
Ah, the coat metaphor. It's such a trivial comment, isn't it? Put a coat on. But let's unpack that. Why does that one little phrase drive people absolutely crazy?
It drives them crazy because it's not about the weather. It's never about the weather.
Right.
It's about agency. It's a command disguised as care. It's a tiny little statement that says, I do not trust your judgment.
Right. It's trivial, but what it symbolizes is a total loss of autonomy. It's a micro-invalidation of your adulthood.
Exactly. If we really analyze that interaction, it represents the parent's inability to switch off the protector mode. They just can't see the 32-year-old standing in front of them who, understands how hypothermia works.
They just don't.
They see the 5-year-old who might forget their mittens.
It's like they're running outdated software. They're running Parenting 1.0 on a piece of hardware that has been upgraded 20 times since.
That's a great way to put it. And the source implies this happens every time you leave. It's a ritual. So you're leaving to go be a master of the universe, or at least a functioning adult, and the very last thing you hear is an instruction suitable for a kindergartner.
It primes you. It primes you to feel small right as you step out into the big world.
It's the coding, if you will, of your autonomy. It's just this little layer they put on you before you go.
A very thin, very annoying coating.
Hmm?
But, if the code thing is just an annoyance, the next theme in the source is genuinely anxiety-inducing. We need to talk about surveillance.
Oh, this is a huge one. This is where it goes from annoying to properly intrusive.
Absolutely. The text says you have to let them know all your movements. And specifically, it mentions the requirement to send a mandatory text if you are going to be late.
Let them know all your movements. I mean, it sounds like you're on parole.
It does. It sounds like you're wearing an ankle monitor. And you have to contrast this with the freedom of living alone. That's the crucial comparison here.
It is. When you live alone, or even with flatmates, your movement is your own business. You walk out the door, you become anonymous. You are just a person in the city. You come back when you want, you eat when you want. Nobody is tracking your coordinates.
But in the multi-generational home, your presence or even your absence is an event.
It is. It's monitored data. Are you home? Are you not home? When are you expected? It's a schedule.
And the source really highlights the anxiety of that text message. You're out, maybe you're having a great conversation, maybe you're on a date that's going well, or you're just having a beer with friends after work.
You're in your adult life.
You're in your adult life, and then you feel that vibration in your pocket. Or you just look at the clock and realize it's 11:00 p.m., and suddenly you aren't present in the moment anymore.
No, you're not. You're doing mental calculus about the text.
Exactly. When do I send it? What do I say? How late is too late? It just pulls you out of your adult life and yanks you right back into that child role.
It's a tether. I have to check in. But the source paints an even more vivid and, frankly, more stressful picture of what happens if you don't text or if you just come home really late.
This is the waiting game. And this part, it reads like a horror movie script. It's so good.
It really is. The source claims that 99% of the time after a night out, your parents will be waiting for you even if it's 4 a.m.
Let's just visualize this scene. Because the source is so specific about it. You're an adult, you've had a night out, you walk in at 4 a.m., you have a key, you might even be paying rent. But you're on tiptoes.
You're trying to avoid that one creaky floorboard that you've known about since you were 7. You're trying to turn the key in the lock as quietly as humanly possible, and then
The lamp is on. Just one lamp in the living room. Or worse, they're just sitting there in the dark.
And it's the silent judgment. They might not even yell. That's the thing. They might just say, "Oh, you're back."
Yeah, that's almost worse than yelling.
It is, because the fact that they are awake implies that they were waiting. And if they were waiting, they were worrying. And that worry is now your fault.
And that guilt is so heavy. It's this instant psychological pressure cooker the second you walk in the door.
It is. It totally disrupts what should be a feeling of relief. Walking into your own home should be the moment you can finally, drop the mask and relax.
Right. It should be your sanctuary.
But in this scenario, walking in the door is the start of a new performance. You have to perform sobriety. You have to perform responsible adult who is very sorry for the worry they caused.
Oh, the performance of sobriety at 4 a.m. Trying to walk in a perfectly straight line and articulate complex sentences because your dad is standing there in his pajamas. That is a unique and terrible form of stress.
It completely kills the vibe of the night you just had. You can't just collapse into bed. You have to navigate this incredibly complex interpersonal interaction first.
And speaking of killing the vibe, we have to talk about the ultimate mood killer. The source brings up a huge point about social stigma.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically, bringing people back,
Yeah.
friends, romantic partners.
Yes, the text mentions the awkwardness explicitly. It says, it's really embarrassing when you meet new people to admit you're still sleeping in your childhood bedroom.
The bedroom reveal. It's a whole thing.
It is a significant barrier to modern dating, for sure. Think about what a bedroom represents for an adult. It's an extension of your identity.
It's your space.
It's your space. When you live alone, your apartment tells the story of who you are now. Your books, your art, your furniture choices. They all communicate something about you.
Right. But your childhood bedroom tells the story of who you were in 2012.
Exactly. The physical space creates this cognitive dissonance. You're out there in the world, at a bar or on a date, trying to project this image of a sophisticated, capable, dateable adult. I'm a professional, I have goals, I have taste.
And then you bring someone home and they see a single bed and maybe a trophy from a swim meet when you were 12.
Or the glow-in-the-dark stars are still on the ceiling, or the wallpaper your mom picked out when you were a freshman in high school. It completely undermines the adult identity you're trying to establish.
It does. And the source notes that just the act of admitting it is embarrassing, which suggests that despite the statistics, despite 1 in 4 people doing this, there is still a deep-seated shame attached to it.
There is. You feel like you have to justify it immediately. I'm just, saving for a deposit. You have to explain it away.
And then there's the logistical nightmare of it all. The source implies that dating becomes this hurdle course. You have to navigate the parents, the thin walls, the shared bathroom, the childhood decor.
It's not exactly conducive to romance. It's a massive dampener on your intimate life.
So, okay, we've got the emotional regression, the surveillance, the social awkwardness. Those are the feelings. But the source then moves on to something a little more structural in the next section. It's about the new roles that emerge.
Right.
We're calling this the transactional relationship.
This is interesting because it shifts from how it feels to how it works, the nuts and bolts of the arrangement. And it starts with a classic argument that the source cites. I think literally everyone has heard this line.
Oh, yeah. You treat this house like a hotel.
The hotel argument.
Let's really unpack this because it's the go-to insult for parents in this situation.
Yeah.
What are they really saying when they say that?
Well, at its core, it's a clash of expectations, isn't it? It's about contribution and presence. When a parent says, you treat this house like a hotel, they are essentially saying, I want a family member, a community member, and you are acting like a transient guest.
The parents want connection.
Right.
They want you to sit in the living room and watch TV with them. They want to hear about your day. They want the family unit back.
Right. They view the home as a shared emotional space. That's their expectation. But the adult child, they often view the home as a functional base, a launch pad.
A logistics hub?
A logistics hub, exactly. I need a place to sleep, shower, and store my clothes while I go and live my actual life outside these 4 walls. A hotel is, by its nature, transactional. You check in, you use the amenities, you check out. You don't bond with the concierge.
So the parents feel used. They feel like unpaid staff.
And the child feels stifled. They feel like they are being forced to participate and socialize when they just want to come home and decompress in their own space.
But this is where it gets really funny, and the source points this out so well. While the parents are complaining about the hotel treatment, there actually is a form of payment happening.
Right. It's just not cash.
No, it's technical labor.
It's the unpaid internship as the family tech guru.
Yes. The source explicitly states that the adult child must assume the role of the household IT technician.
This is the new social contract right here. The source even lists the scope of work quite clearly. Phones, broadband, or TV.
Basically anything with a screen or a blinking light. And it says, if anything goes wrong, you're called to the rescue.
Note the dramatic language. Called to the rescue. It implies a crisis. It's not, can you take a look at the Wi-Fi when you have a minute?
No. It's an emergency. The Wi-Fi dropping is treated like a medical event in the house.
But this is the trade-off. This is the rent. This acts as a form of currency. You endure the comments about your coat, you endure the waiting up at 4 a.m., but in exchange, you keep the digital world running for them.
It's a fascinating reversal of competence, isn't it? In almost every other area of the house, cooking, cleaning, laundry, general household management, the parent is the expert and the child is the novice.
Absolutely. The child is the apprentice. But in this one domain, the roles flip completely.
They flip 180 degrees. Suddenly, the parent is the helpless one. I don't know why the printer won't work. I don't know how to attach this photo to the email. And the child becomes the wizard.
The gatekeeper of the internet. The one who can make the magic box work again.
But it's also a burden. Because you are called to the rescue, it means you are never off the clock. You're the on-site sysadmin, 24/7. If the Netflix starts buffering during their favorite movie, all eyes turn to you.
It's the price of admission. You fix the router, you get a roof over your head. It's a very clear, if unspoken, transactional balance.
So, okay, we've painted a pretty bleak picture so far. I mean, regression, surveillance, unpaid tech support, slavery. You might be listening and wondering, why on earth would anyone do this?
And that's a fair question.
But the source material pivots here. It says, but on the other hand...
And we have to be fair. If it was all misery, that 25% number would be a lot lower. There is a reason people stay. There is a payoff.
Section 3, the domestic trade-off. And honestly, this part of the source material made me hungry. It starts talking about the sensory details of the upside.
It starts with what it calls the weekend awakening.
Waking up with the smell of bacon and eggs.
That is a very specific, very evocative detail. It's not just free food. It's the experience of care.
It is. And it represents something huge. Let's think about the alternative again. If you are a 24-year-old living in a shared apartment in a big city, paying exorbitant rent, what do you wake up to on a Saturday?
Silence. Or maybe your roommate playing loud music. Or the grim realization that you have to walk 3 blocks to get a decent coffee.
And if you open your fridge, what do you see?
Oh, it's sad. It's the student fridge. You've got ketchup, maybe half a beer, some wilting spinach you had good intentions for, and a carton of milk that you're afraid to smell.
Exactly. But at home, the source talks about the supply chain.
Yes, it says the fridge and cupboards always have something in them, and generally a lot better than you could afford.
This is what I call the parent premium.
It really is. It's a difference between the generic brand block of cheddar and the good stuff from the deli counter. It's the difference between just getting by and actually living well, culinarily speaking.
They've had 30 years to build up their supply chain. They have spices you've never heard of. They have fresh fruit.
They have juice that isn't from concentrate.
Yes, that's the benchmark right there. And for the adult child, stepping back into that flow of resources is a massive, immediate upgrade in quality of life. You are accessing a lifestyle that is, frankly, above your pay grade.
You absolutely are. But the source points out a bit of a psychological trap here, too. It mentions a skill gap.
Right. What does it say?
The text reads, "There's nothing better than home-cooked food, and you've realized that you'll never be able to cook as well as your parents."
That's a really bittersweet realization, isn't it?
It is, because on one hand, you're enjoying this amazing Sunday roast, but on the other, you're also implicitly acknowledging, I couldn't do this for myself.
It reinforces the hierarchy.
It does. The parent is the provider, the competent one, and the child slips back into the role of the grateful but dependent consumer.
And that dynamic, that dependency, it extends beyond food. We have to talk about the cleaning. The source uses a phrase here that I absolutely love. It talks about magical laundry powers.
Magical laundry powers. That is such a telling phrase.
It says, your mom has magical laundry powers that remove all the stains from your washing and make it super clean.
Let's focus on that word magical. What does that imply?
It implies total ignorance. It implies you have no idea how the trick is done. It's a mystery.
Exactly. It implies that the labor, the skill, and the knowledge are completely invisible to the beneficiary. When you live alone, laundry is not magic, it's drudgery.
Oh, it's science and failure. You scrub, you soak, you Google how to get red wine out of a cotton blend, and half the time you just set the stain and ruin the shirt anyway.
But at home, you drop the stained shirt in the hamper, and 3 days later it just appears on your bed, folded and pristine, like it never happened.
It reinforces the child role perfectly. Things just happen for you. You are the beneficiary of a complex domestic infrastructure that you don't have to build or maintain.
So the laundry is magic, the food is better than you can afford, but is that enough? I mean, is bacon and clean shirts really enough to trade your freedom for?
The source gets to the real bottom line in the final section.
This is it, Section 4, the financial reality check.
This is the anchor. This is the aha moment. Because for most people, this isn't just about comfort or convenience. It's about economic survival.
The source mentions a specific epiphany regarding money. And it uses a bill that I think most young people don't even think about until the first one arrives after they move out.
The water bill.
The water bill. The source says, and this is a direct quote, "In fact, you didn't even know until recently that you had to pay for water." It's the perfect example of the invisible costs of independent living. When you're a child, or even a young adult living at home, you see the big-ticket items. You know a car costs money. You know a mortgage costs money, but you don't see the administrative drip feed of daily life.
The water bill, the council tax, the internet service fees, the boiler repair insurance, the TV license.
All of it. The source is pointing out that living at home shelters you from this relentless administrative drudgery. It's not just about saving the actual cash, it's about being shielded from the mental load of just keeping a modern household running.
It's a true economic shelter. And the source argues very practically that you have somewhere nice to live for far less than the cost of renting elsewhere.
And that phrase, somewhere nice, is key, let's be honest. To rent a house with a garden, a full-size kitchen, a big living room, a driveway, that would cost an absolute fortune on the open market in most cities.
You'd be in a tiny apartment or a room in a shared house with 4 other people in one bathroom.
Exactly. So by staying home, you are engaged in a form of lifestyle arbitrage. You are trading your social autonomy for standard of living you couldn't otherwise access on your current salary.
And the really big prize here is the accumulation of wealth. The source explicitly says they've allowed you to save money.
This is the long game. This is why the expert context is so important here. For the 20 to 34 demographic grappling with student debt and insane housing costs, this period of living at home is often the only viable way to build a financial foundation.
It's how they save for a deposit on a house. It's how they pay off their student loans in years instead of decades.
So in a way, enduring the put a coat on comment every morning is an investment strategy.
That's a great way to put it. You are paying for your future financial freedom with your current social freedom. It's a calculated, if sometimes painful, sacrifice.
It is.
So let's try to bring this all together. We've looked at the regression feeling like a child again. We've looked at the new transactional roles, the IT support for rent. We've looked at the perks, the magical laundry, the full fridge. And we've looked at the money, the real reason.
Right. And the source ends with a final verdict, a kind of outro section. It tries to synthesize the emotional conclusion of this whole experience.
And it's not as simple, it's good or it's bad, is it?
No, not at all. It's much more complicated than that. The text says that despite all the complaints, despite the rules, the hotel comments, the unpaid IT work, the listener knows perfectly well that they are lucky.
And it ends with the line, you're eternally grateful.
A complex gratitude.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because you could be profoundly grateful for the safety net while still resenting the fact that you need it. You can love the free bacon while hating the 4 a.m. curfew. Both feelings can be true at the same time.
It's the ultimate trade-off. Autonomy for security. Freedom for a future.
And that really leads us to the final provocative thought we want to leave you, the listener, with. Yeah. Because we have to ask the question, what is the real cost of this trade-off?
It's the big question. We see the financial gain. We see the physical comfort. But is this period of living at home a case of arrested development?
Right. Does it stop you from becoming a fully formed, resilient adult because you never have to figure out the water bill on your own or how to actually remove a stain from a shirt?
Or, on the flip side, is it actually the smartest, most strategic economic decision a modern young adult can possibly make? Is it a tactical retreat to build up your strength for the brutal economic reality of the future?
Are magical laundry powers worth the price of having a silent, judgmental curfew at age 30?
That is the question every single person in that 25% has to answer for themselves every single day.
And I think the answer might change depending on whether it's a Saturday morning with the smell of bacon or a Saturday night at 4 a.m. with a waiting parent and a single lamp on.
I think you're absolutely right about that.
No, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.